it's Gina from Orchid and Opal Jewelry and Beads, and I'm here with a tutorial this morning, and I'm calling it the Lentil Blossom Bracelet. You'll notice that these little pieces here look a little bit like flowers, and they are actually made of these little tiny disc-shaped lentil beads. And I'd recently received these red colored lentil beads in the May 2018 bead crate, and I started playing with them. I made a lot of variations that I had taken apart and kind of perfected how I wanted this bracelet to look, and I'm really happy with the result. So I'd love for you to stick around, and we're gonna make another one. You can see how I put it together, and if nothing else, just bead along with me. I made several variations of this bracelet. You'll notice this one has a single seed bead in the center of the blossom with seed beads on either side of the blossoms. I also made this one right here that has leaves, Czech glass leaves in between each of the blossoms. And I also had a single seed bead in the center of these flowers as well. And then finally I made one other variation. This is the one that we're going to be making together today in some different colors. But this one I did seed beads on the side of the blossoms, but in the center I used a very small crystal rondelle. And I really like this one the best. I think they all work. If you don't have this size rondelle, then don't worry about it. You can do a single seed bead like I did in this one and my other bracelet, or you can do a couple seed beads or some other shape that's totally different. But this is the one we're going to make today, and I can't wait to get started. For this tutorial, you will need 11/0 seed beads, 48 6mm lentil beads, 1 hole, 32 3x4mm crystal rondelle beads, 8 2x3mm crystal rondelle beads, split or jump rings, a clasp of your choice, Fireline or beading thread, a beading needle, scissors, and jewelry pliers. And these materials will be enough to make a 7-inch bracelet. Okay, so the first step to making this bracelet is to cut about 5 to 6 feet of Fireline or your choice of beading thread. I'm using a 4-pound crystal Fireline. And the first thing we're going to do once we have our thread on our needle is pick up 9 seed beads, and we're going to be creating a loop that's going to go at one end of our bracelet. 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9. And something I like to do when I'm creating a loop on one end is to go ahead and pick up a split ring if you're going to be using those to join your clasp to your piece, and that way you don't have to worry about putting that on later. It'll already be started for you. So pull those beads down and leave about a 6 to 8 inch tail, and then go back through all those beads to form a loop. So we have our beads on, and we're going to go back through them, and you don't have to go through them all at one time. You can do a few at a time if you need to. You'll go back through the bead that you started in, and see you have a nice loop. Now I'm going to go through these beads one more time because I like to have my loop reinforced as much as possible. So I'm just going to go through all those beads again. It'll just make it a little bit stronger, and since that's an area of the bracelet that'll be pulled on the most, we definitely You want it to be as strong as possible. And again, just go through that very first bead an additional time. And pull. Again, pull on both of those strings so you have your loop. And your split ring or your jump ring, if you want to go ahead and have that on, it will already be in place for you, so you don't have to worry about that later. And then the extra piece of our tail is something that we will weave back in at the end or once we have gotten through some of our pattern. Sometimes I like to do it, you know, halfway through even, just so it's not in the way, because sometimes the tail does have a tendency to get in the way a little bit. Okay, so after you've made your loop, we're going to start by making the base of one of our blossoms. And what we're going to do is pick up a rondelle, a lentil bead, a rondelle, and we're picking up the larger rondelles here because we're doing the base of our blossoms, a seed bead, a rondelle, a lentil, and one more rondelle. So you should have this pattern on your needle, just like that. And we're coming out of this seed bead right here, and we're going to go through that seed bead in the opposite direction. And it's going to form another loop with these beads that we've just added. And let me move the tail out of the way so I can pull it tight so you can see. So it's going to form something that looks like this. Okay? So you're still coming out of that seed bead. And you're going to go through the next rondelle, the next lentil, the next rondelle, until you get to this seed bead over here, and then you can continue your bracelet. So we'll go through those. And again, you don't have to go through them all at once. You can go through a few at a time if you need to. And just pull your work nice and tight as you go. And we're going to go through that seed bead on the end. Okay. So you've got your first blossom base formed, and we're going to be adding 5 more seed beads to make a small loop of seed beads next to our blossom, and that's going to be the pattern. So you're going to have blossom, seed beads, blossom, seed beads. So we're coming out of the seed bead on this end, we're going to add 5 more. And then we're going to go through that same bead that we're coming out of, but in the opposite direction. So go back through that seed bead in the opposite direction. And it's formed another little loop. And then you'll go through the next 3 seed beads so that you come out at this one right here on this end. So go through those next 3. Just like that. And give the piece a nice tug. Okay. And that's what you have so far. And we're just going to repeat the same pattern until we get to the end of our bracelet. Now, to make about a 7-inch bracelet, which is what this blue one is and the one that I'm wearing, I did 8 blossoms, and I did have to add 3, I think they're about 6 or 8 millimeter split rings, so I added 3 of those on each side, and then the toggle clasp, and that allowed me to have enough to cover my wrist. And the reason that I didn't do more blossoms was because these lentils have a tendency to come in strands of 50, and this bracelet calls for 48. So I didn't have enough to do like an additional lentil, or additional blossom, excuse me. But if you have more lentils and you can do that and you'd like a larger bracelet, just go ahead and add more blossoms or more of the same pattern to your bracelet, and that'll make for a longer piece. So after you have this pattern, we're going to start back to where we were when we were working with our rondelles. So add on a rondelle, a lentil, a rondelle, a seed bead, rondelle, lentil, rondelle. Add that pattern on your needle. We're coming out of the seed bead right on the end, and you're going to go back through it in the opposite direction. Okay. Then just like we did before, pull it tight, go through the rondelle, and then the next lentil, the next rondelle, and the next seed bead, so that you're coming out of the other end. Just like that. Give it a nice little pull. And that's what it's looking like so far. And then just like we did before, we're going to make another little seed bead loop. So pick up 5 seed beads. Okay, and then you're going to go through this seed bead that you're coming out of through the opposite direction. Pull it nice and tight. And go through the next 3 seed beads so that you're ending up on the other end of that loop. So let's do one more together, and then we'll meet back after you have all your blossoms and the whole base of your bracelet finished. But let's do one more. So again, a rondelle, a lentil, a rondelle, a seed bead, rondelle, lentil, and rondelle. So pick up that pattern there, and then go through the opposite direction of the seed bead that you're coming out of to form the base of another blossom. And then go through the next rondelle, lentil, rondelle, and seed bead so that you're coming out of the seed bead on the end. It's coming along nicely. I'm liking the color combination. And then let's add 5 seed beads. And go back through the seed bead we're coming out of in the opposite direction. Go through the next 3 seed beads. like that, and pull it tight. Alright, so hopefully you have the hang of it by now. If not, you can go back and watch it again. But let's meet back here once we've gotten all of our blossoms and the entire length of our bracelet completed up until the point where we're going to add our loop on the other side. So stop when you get to the last blossom. Don't add on another small loop of seed beads. We'll go ahead and do that together when you get all the blossoms completed. Okay, so you're at the part of the video where you should have all your blossoms, the bases, on your bracelet to the length that you want it. And as we discussed, I'm going to have a bracelet that is 8 blossoms long. And so we're at the very end of that, and I also want to mention that I went ahead and I wove my tail back in, and the way I did that was I just went through a couple beads, made a little half hitch knot, went through a couple more beads, made another knot. I did 3 knots worth and then went through a few more beads and then cut the tail, and that way it won't be in the way when we're trying to bead the rest of our bracelet. So we want to make our other loop on this end and also add our split or jump ring just like we did when we started the bracelet. So we already have 1 seed bead here at the end, and you remember at first we strung 9 beads. Since we already have 1 sitting there, we're going to string on 8 seed beads. 2, 3. Okay, and we're going to string on a split or jump ring if you want to do that. And we're coming out of the seed bead all the way on the very end, and we're going to go through the same bead in the opposite direction. And there's our loop. So that's the very end on the other side. And we're going to pull that as taut as we can, and we're going to go through those seed beads one more time. And you can do a few at a time if you need to. And the goal is to come out of the seed bead that is, I'll show you when I get to it. I was thinking I was going to be able to go through all of them, but I couldn't, and that's alright. But we want to come out of this seed bead here, which is basically where we started our loop. So continue around, going through those beads until you can come out of that first seed bead. Okay, so we're coming out of this seed bead that's on the end right here, and this is what I feel is the most fun part of this bracelet. And you'll see I gotta pull my bracelet a little bit tighter. It's hard to do that and film and show you at the same time, but that's alright. So we are going to start forming our blossoms, which is fun because the bracelet really starts to take shape at this point. So coming out of our seed bead right here that is on the end, you want to string on a seed bead, a lentil, one of your small rondelles, or whatever bead is going to be in the center of your blossom, another lentil, and another seed bead. So this is the pattern that I have on my needle, and we're going to go across the blossom. So we're over here now, we're going to be stretching those beads across and going through this bead on the other end, the seed bead on the other end. So coming down out of this one, we're going to go up through the seed bead on the other side. And we want to pop those beads that we just strung on right across the top of that blossom. Okay, just like that. So then what we want to do, so we're coming out of that seed bead, we want to go just through the next rondelle, right there. Okay, so we're coming out of the rondelle, and we're going to be adding another lentil bead on this side and another lentil bead on this side. First, we want to add another seed bead and another lentil to our needle. Okay, we're coming out of the large rondelle, and we're going to go through the small rondelle in the center of our blossom. So I'm going to go ahead and pull those beads down just so that it's easier to handle while I'm trying to show you in the camera what we're doing. So I pulled those beads down, and I'm going to go through the small rondelle that way. Okay, and pull. Just like that, and you see how that popped this lentil right into place right on this side, and we're going to do one more lentil over here on the other side to make the center of our blossom. So pick up another lentil and another seed bead. I'll pull those down. And you see how we were coming out of this rondelle when we started before we went through the center blossom. And now we're coming through the small rondelle in the center of the blossom, and we're going to go through this lentil and this rondelle on the side, heading that way so that we can continue down our bracelet. Okay, so go through the lentil and the rondelle on this side, and pull, and pop your other little lentil into place. See? So now you have a little blossom. So cute. Okay. And one little tip I want to mention as I was making this is when I get to the, out of this rondelle right here after making a blossom, I like to go through and make a little half hitch knot right there, and that keeps your blossom nice and tight because it can tend to loosen up a little bit as you're going down your bracelet, and then by the time you're on this end you're like, wow, that was a little looser than I wanted it to be. So that really helped it to keep its shape nicely, just making one little half hitch knot on the side of each blossom after you make your blossom. Okay, so coming out of this rondelle, continue on into the seed bead on that end. Let me make sure I don't have any knots in my thread. Okay. And then go through the next 3 seed beads, which will take you down through this seed bead on the end of your next blossom. Okay. So we're going to do what we did on this first one, and we're going to string on 1 seed bead, 1 lentil, a small rondelle, a lentil, and a seed bead, so that we have this pattern on our needle. And we're going to go across, and we're coming out of this seed bead here, and we're going to go up through the seed bead on the opposite end. And pull those beads down and pop them into place so that they form a part of your next blossom. Okay. Keep it as tight as you can. Go through the next rondelle, the large rondelle on the bottom, and put my work down so it's a little easier to show you. Okay. And then pick up 1 seed bead, 1 lentil, pull them down, and you're going to go through this middle small rondelle bead, or whatever bead you choose to put in the center, going off to the right. And your little lentil should pop into place on this end. Okay. And then what you want to do is you want to pick up another lentil and another seed bead, and then go through the lentil on the bottom and the next rondelle. And see how that formed your nice little blossom. And again, pull that as tight as you can, reasonably. And let's make a little knot. I'm just going to go under that thread right there, make a loop. My thread got knotted. That happens sometimes. There we go. So now I got to pull it tight again. So we're making a loop. Go through the loop, keeping your work nice and tight. And not getting your thread all tangled up. Okay, and then pull. And that's just going to keep your work as tight as possible as you go down your piece. So then go through that next seed bead, and that'll hide your little knot, and then go through the next 3 seed beads. So you're going to end up on the side of your next blossom. Okay. So then let's do one more together. Pick up a seed bead, a lentil, a small rondelle, a lentil, and a seed bead. Okay? Then go across your bracelet and up through the seed bead on the opposite side. Just like that. Go through the next rondelle. Pick up a seed bead, a lentil, go through the small center rondelle, pull tight, pick up a lentil and a seed bead, and then down here you'll go through this lentil on the bottom and the next rondelle. Make sure those beads pop into place to make your blossom, and keeping your piece tight, you'll make a little knot right here on the side. Alright, so that's 3 blossoms done. This is how it looks, and you can continue in that same pattern until you get to the end of your bracelet, and we'll meet back there. Okay, so you all should have reached the end of your bracelet. You have all your blossoms done. You've made your final half hitch knot right next to that last rondelle, and you're ready to end your bracelet. So since we already have this end loop on with our split ring, all we really have to do is go back through a few beads and make a few more knots along the way. So we'll do that together. And by the way, I did go ahead and add on several more split rings and the end of my toggle clasp to the bracelet. So that's all done. So we're going to go through just the next couple beads, whatever you get to. This doesn't have to be done in the same manner as long as it accomplishes the same purpose, which is just securing our thread so it doesn't come unraveled and making sure that our piece is secure. So I went through a couple beads and made a little knot. I'm going to go through this next rondelle and make another knot. Okay, going through a couple more beads and then making a knot. I'm going to go back up through these. You can continue along your bracelet however you want to, but I would suggest making approximately 3 knots along the way and then going through a couple more beads to hide your knot. Okay. So do that until you feel that your piece is reinforced enough and you're comfortable with it. That, and I am going to end mine right here. Sorry, I was going off camera just a little bit. And then go through a couple more. And then I'll cut my thread. And then after that, the next step will just be adding on the other part of the clasp. And first, the split rings. And I'm going to do the split rings off camera because I have yet to get a split ring opener, and it does take me a few tries to get these open with a regular set of pliers. So we're going to add our split rings and the rest of the clasp, and we'll meet back here when it's all done and try it on. So here it is. How'd you guys do? Hopefully yours turned out nicely. I'm really happy with mine. I'm happy with the color combination and how everything came together. I think it's really pretty. I can't wait to wear it out somewhere, especially with maybe a spring dress or something. But yeah, I really like this design. I mean, I know I came up with it, but you know, even still, even if I hadn't, it's something that I would wear. It's something that I would enjoy making. It's not very difficult. And a lot of people who are beaders have these materials, you know, and maybe you have some lentils and you're not really sure what to do with them. So hopefully this gives you an idea of just a creative way to use them, is to make some little flower blossoms. Alright, well, I want to thank you all for being with me. Please leave a comment to let me know how yours turned out, or if you have any questions or any other comments, even just to say hi. I'd love to hear from you. And please check back for future tutorials. I do these pretty often, and I enjoy watching others' tutorials myself, and it's just fun when you're interested in beading to bead along with others. So thanks for being with me, and stay tuned, and I'll see you, hopefully, on my next video. Bye-bye. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. I would also love for you to follow me on Instagram, Pinterest, Facebook, and Etsy. Orchid and Opal Jewelry. Thanks for watching!